Good evening, everyone. The Ranter is back to go into yet another rambling diatribe of the news of the day. However, this particular one will not be politically based. I know, amazing that I actually have other interests beyond politics. Well, this one is actually going to be a rambling diatribe of pro wrestling news. To go into a little backstory, I am a avid pro wrestling fan. I have been since about 1986 when I first started. I watched the first tapes of pro wrestling, being the Wrestling Classic, WWF Wrestling Classic, which was their very first pay per view, and the WrestleManias 1 and 2, which I had on tape. And after that, I got hooked on to got hooked onto pro wrestling in the 80s, which is the golden era for those of us of a certain age who remembers growing up that way. I was blessed as a pro wrestling fan to be living in Northern Virginia and have a very powerful cable company, Media General Cable, in the Northern Virginia area, to which I was able to watch not only WWF wrestling, but NWA wrestling, AWA wrestling, and a little bit of WCCW, which is the Dallas-based wrestling where the Von Erichs come from, for those who know of the movie Iron Claw. Over the years, I have went to house shows. I went to major events in 1987. Well, actually, first, let's go back a little bit. In 1986, I went to the live events of during the feud between Hulk Hogan and Mr. Wonderful Paul Orndorff, where back in the day, when they were going to have major events, like on big events, like not pay-per-view, but at least super cards, they would run those major matches during house shows, which is the smaller shows that you just go to that are not televised. And they would do like major angle events in the house shows just to take the temperature of what would be seen. And so on this particular night, I went to the Capitol Center in Landover, Maryland, with my family, and we watched wrestling then. And it was this cage match between Mr. Wonderful Paul Orndorff and Hulk Hogan, and where both of them went down at the same time, and they both landed to the floor at the same time, and there was a little controversy, but Hulk Hogan won. That particular cage match was done on a televised event, and the same ending happened. So that's what I mean when it was like testing the waters, so to speak, as how the fans would react to this type of match. So in 1987, I went to the Jim Crockett Cup Senior Tournament in Baltimore. It was a 2-night event, and so I saw this great tag team tournament go by. And throughout the years, I was fortunate to get to know, or not, well, some I get to know, but to meet pro wrestlers over the time. When I went to the Jim Crockett tournament, I met Road Warrior Animal. I met Lex Luger, who wasn't all that friendly to fans, and he just didn't feel like he wanted to be there. Brad Armstrong and Ron Garvin. I met Big John Studd when his last years was living actually in the Northern Virginia area, so I actually met him at one of my local favorite restaurants. Over the time, I met other wrestlers, both in real life and online. So I've been having an extensive time period of being a pro wrestling fan from '86 on up, and even going so far as to my fandom is I actually run on Facebook an e-fed, which is just a role-playing, silly, dinky little text-based wrestling promotion called In This Very Ring. Though I've been doing it on Facebook for about 10 years now. So for those who are wrestling fans, my little dinky one-man promotion lasted longer than Global Force Wrestling. But be that as it may, I watch mainstream pro wrestling of the United States. I have watched Japanese wrestling. I have a massive amount of what I would consider useless information on wrestling, and and it is an endearing hobby of mine of watching wrestling, doing my Eat Fed show, and even if you take a look, I'm now doing wrestling cards off of the WWE 2K22 to 2K23 with the custom made wrestlers of actual real world wrestlers of 4 different eras. So if you're a wrestling fan, check those out. I'm rather proud of the matches that I put together with those. Alright, that's all the background of me being a wrestling fan. Like, it's like showing you unnecessary credentials. So what am I doing a video on for this? Could it be the Vince McMahon scandal? No, I'm not touching that with a 10-foot pole. And that 10-foot pole doesn't even have a condom on it, so I'm not touching it. But what I am going to talk about is, for those wrestling fans, or WWE wrestling fans of current day era, I'm going to talk about the Cody Rhodes situation. Now, Cody Rhodes is the second son of the American Dream, Dusty Rhodes, if you will. And when he came back to WWE, he did a stint away from WWE where he actually traveled through the world, built up his credentials as a pro wrestler and a main event pro wrestler, working in places like TNA and Japan, and then All Elite Wrestling, which was his last major stint. He came back to WWE, and he's been back for the past 2 years or so. And one of the major goals that he set out, that he made public in WWE, is that he wanted to win the WWE Heavyweight Championship, the World Heavyweight Championship. Now, there are two World Championships in WWE. One that is being held by Seth Rollins, and the other one being held by Roman Reigns. The one that Roman Reigns holds, which is actually a unified title between the Universal title, which was a championship that came about during the brand split, and they called it the Universal Championship. That has a very short lineage for just a few years. And he also unified that with the World's Heavyweight Championship, which is the belt. Seth Rollins has a World's Championship belt also, but that was kind of done because Roman Reigns is working on this 1,000+ day championship reign, and they wanted a world title to be defended, but Roman Reigns wasn't defending his belt. In fact, in 2023, the amount of times that Roman Reigns was in the ring wrestling or defending the title was 11. 11 days out of 365. Which is, for old school wrestling fans, that's pretty unprecedented, since even people like Hulk Hogan, who people can rightfully point at and say that he never really, defended his championship all that much, or he wasn't on all that much. He did, in the 80s, he did do the house show circuits. He occasionally did TV matches. He sure as hell wrestled more than 11 times a year. So, that being said, but Seth Rollins' championship is considered, they're wanting to promote it as a workhorse championship, a championship that would get defended far more constantly, as opposed to Roman Reigns' title, which doesn't get defended enough. However, partially due to them wanting to tick the days away so that his title reign could surpass previous champions' title reigns. Ego. I don't know why. But Cody Rhodes wants to challenge and win the World's Heavyweight Championship, and the one that is held by Roman Reigns. Reason being, that title's lineage goes back. It is supposed to be the unbroken line that goes from Roman Reigns as the current champion all the way back to the original WWF champion, which was Buddy Rogers, and then who then lost it to Bruno Sammartino, who's actually probably more a legit first champion. Okay? Well, that championship lineage that went up to superstar Billy Graham was challenged by the American Dream, Dusty Rhodes, Cody's father. And Dusty in one of the title matches thought he won the championship and was awarded the championship, and he held up the title in Madison Square Garden. MSG is pretty much the home of WWF, WWF, and WWE wrestling for decades. So it was a monumental moment. However, he didn't win the belt, or he didn't win the championship because of a technicality, and they took it away from him. Cody Rhodes made it his story arc to avenge Dusty for that loss by winning that championship. That being a Rhodes family member to win the World's Heavyweight Championship. Alright, so this is all background for this particular issue. Alright, last year he did challenge Roman Reigns in WrestleMania 39, and he came that close of winning. However, outside interference shenanigans happened and he didn't win. Well, the thing is that he didn't end by that loss, but that story continued to build and build. And the good thing about pro wrestling, for really good pro wrestling angles and storylines, is that if you get the crowd's emotion and investment in that. So the people were hanging on to Cody Rhodes finishing his story, for avenging his father, gaining that title, and as almost a byproduct of it, but still an important part, ending Roman Reigns' championship reign that has been going on for over 1,000+ days, that has surpassed modern championship holders, their records, smashing them, gone. So now there's only 3 left that had a longer reign than Roman Reigns. So that is a byproduct, not necessarily a strong motivation of this story, but it is something in the back of the minds of a lot of wrestling fans. So Cody Rhodes lost the match at 39. And then we span it out a year into the coming year, where Cody was about to go into the Royal Rumble, and the story goes is that this might be his opportunity to go back and try to finish his story, thereby defeating Roman Reigns at WrestleMania 40, the 40th anniversary of WrestleManias, 1984 to 2024. So 85, sorry, never mind. 85, 24, okay. But there was going to be roadblocks in the way. Story angles were building around the Royal Rumble to build the anticipation of it. CM Punk comes back, which is a video in of itself to do in terms of pro wrestling. But for those who know the importance of CM Punk, him coming back, monumental from Survivor Series on up. He gets into Cody Rhodes' face, appreciating that he has a story, but CM Punk has his own story to tell, and that he was going to stop Cody by winning the Royal Rumble himself. The object of winning the Royal Rumble, a 30-man Royal Rumble that people go in every 2 minutes, and then after all 30 is either in, or some of them mostly are eliminated, but when all 30 contestants get into the match, and then you eliminate down to 1, then the winner of the Royal Rumble goes on to WrestleMania to challenge whichever world champion they wish to challenge, because there's 2 sets of world champions for both the men and the women, since they're now doing women's Royal Rumbles. Well, CM Punk, who came back to this company after 10 years, wants to main event WrestleMania himself, and he wanted to challenge the world for the world title himself. And Cody Rhodes, even though he appreciates Cody Rhodes' story in this angle between the two, this sort of budding angle, he's not going to get in his way. That he's going to throw him out like he's going to throw everyone else out, rob Cody of his story, and work on his own story. So that was a great feud angle, short, that just sort of built out of nowhere, but you felt the chemistry between the two. So this was going to be cool. Royal Rumble happens. 30 contestants go in. CM Punk goes in, Cody Rhodes goes in. Man, a good fight, good physical storytelling for all the wrestlers are going in and out until the end. The last two is Cody Rhodes, CM Punk. And this is an hour plus long battle royal since people come in every 2 minutes. And the two, with CM Punk, that we find out later is legitimately injured, his tricep was torn, they still have a banger of this blowout between the two, which gives you the hint of what could be the future between these two, because they do have good chemistry going into this fight against each other. Well, long story short, CM Punk gets tossed out after a good grueling back and forth between these two alone, these last two. So Cody Rhodes wins. He gets on the sign, he points to the sign to WrestleMania, and he points at the skybox where Roman Reigns is, pretty much indicating, without a shadow of a doubt, he's going to challenge him. He's going to finish his story at WrestleMania 40. Now, as I said, I'm not going to talk about the Vince McMahon thing, because that is ew. Just ew. I don't want to. But there are side story that is happening along the same time frame. Dwayne Johnson, The Rock, joins TKO board of directors. Now, a little short background into this. In the recent year, WWE was bought by Endeavor. Endeavor is a umbrella company that also does UFC, and now they've connected with TNA wrestling, which is why a number of TNA wrestlers showed up at the Royal Rumble. Well, between TNA, the UFC, and WWE, there is a sub-organization that connects them called TKO. Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson has joined that board. The importance of this is we find out that The Rock comes back onto WWE television and he talks about he wants to sit at the head of the table, which is the head of the table is a title, a title that Roman Reigns gave himself, calling himself the head of the table of his family. Dwayne Johnson is a member of Roman Reigns' family, legit. Long the Anoli Samoan family that goes down the line. The Rock is a member of that family. So here's where it gets convoluted. For the past few years, people have been wanting The Rock to come back to face Roman Reigns to end his World Championship run. It didn't happen last year, wasn't happen the year before. And people had clamored for this. Well, Cody Rhodes wants to finish his story, and he's got the fans invested in that story, so they want him to finish the story. The Monday after Royal Rumble rolls by, Cody Rhodes comes in. All of a sudden, Seth Rollins, who was the other champion, who was the other world champion, he was also kind of injured in himself, but he said he would be at WrestleMania. Out of the blue, wanted Cody Rhodes to challenge him, not Roman Reigns. Now, this is, for wrestling fans, this is a bit of a red flag. There's a bit of a, we're seeing the booking and the machinery is starting to do a shift. Because for even the casual wrestling fan, there was a straight line from the Royal Rumble win from Cody Rhodes to Roman Reigns for WrestleMania 40. It's in everybody's imagination that is where we're going with this. And then all of a sudden Seth Rollins comes out Monday and says, no, challenge me, because I'm the Workhorse Champion. This is the Workhorse title belt. Roman Reigns' belt doesn't matter as much because he's barely around to defend it, which is true. But is ignoring the lineage of the title because he wants Cody to challenge for his title. Now that's a red flag, as I said. Why would he do that? What would be the logical reason to do that? They haven't really come up with a logical reason as of yet. Come on to SmackDown, which is the second major show in WWE. Cody Rhodes steps up to Roman Reigns after Roman Reigns was in the ring doing a promo, pretty much denigrating Seth Rollins and his world title, just trashing it in front of the fans. Cody Rhodes comes out, and Cody Rhodes tells him pretty much he wants to finish his story, but he was counseled that it may not happen that it won't happen at WrestleMania, excuse me. That'll happen at another night, but he got counseled by a certain person. Then The Rock comes out, and he hugs Cody Rhodes, and then he speaks to him. All of a sudden, Cody Rhodes' face legitimately drops, and he sort of walks away from the ring. And The Rock doesn't say anything to Roman Reigns, his little nephew, and Roman holds up the world title, and we are going by implication that it's going to be The Rock versus Roman Reigns, WrestleMania 40. Now, the internet wrestling community, they didn't like that. An unprecedented moment happened where the WWE's YouTube channel, when they showed this clip of The Rock and confronting Roman Reigns, over 500,000 dislikes, the largest in company history. 500,000 people disliked what they just saw. That is amazing. And there is a backlash that has been growing. And it became evident tonight's Raw when there's a segment between Cody Rhodes and Seth Rollins, because Cody Rhodes now has to think about, because he is the Royal Rumble winner, which means he has the opportunity to face a champion. Well, his story got usurped by The Rock, and we'll go into that in a moment. So he is either Roman Reigns or Seth Rollins, and he might be saddled with Seth Rollins. Well, during their promo tonight, the crowd was chanting "Rocky sucks," which has not been heard since about 1998, when he was a bad guy back then. For people who are not wrestling fans, they probably think all of this is pretty silly, and it is. It's pretty silly. For me, it's less about the markish aspect of, just a knee-jerk emotional annoyance of this, and more on the lines of, I dislike it when you throw a monkey wrench on a clear, linear story. There are internet wrestling publications that kind of was investigating this, and it turns out that when they're claiming that when Dwayne Johnson got on the board of TKO, one of his demands was to face Roman Reigns at WrestleMania 40, and it didn't matter if Cody Rhodes won it or not. It turns out even further that this idea was germinating around January 3rd, far before Royal Rumble. And yet they still had Cody Rhodes win the Royal Rumble and put all the signs and indicators that he wanted to face Roman Reigns. So that is deflating, not only for Cody Rhodes, but for the fan base as a whole that got invested in the Cody Rhodes story arc here of challenging for the world championship and hopefully winning the world championship to avenge his father, who did not win it, or he thought he won it or lost it back in the 70s. Now, there are two ways of people have been reacting to this. People who've been pissed off about this, and those people who are pissed off at those who are pissed off. Where a lot of people were just annoyed at how fans reacted, and he says, "Well, just wait for it. It just happened. Just let them tell the story. Let them tell the story. You're so dramatic. You're marks." Well, here's the thing about those that says, let the story go, let the story play out. For wrestling fans who will know what I'm talking about here, when Daniel Bryan was on the rise to challenge for the World Championship himself, people expected him to win the Royal Rumble. Now, Daniel Bryan was on the first match of the pay-per-view against Bray Wyatt, and Bray Wyatt beat him. I took that as Daniel Bryan was not going to be in the Rumble. And when the Royal Rumble happened and people started to realize Daniel Bryan wasn't showing up, people were pissed. Legit. In the arena was pissed. They were booing people who were fan favorites, who were faces. People like Rey Mysterio Jr. got booed mercilessly for no apparent reason other than him not being Daniel Bryan. Dave Bautista came back to the WWE as kind of the surprise. It's kind of as a surprise entrance. Not really, because they promoted him, but he came back. Drax the Destroyer from Guardians of the Galaxy, who was a pro wrestler in the WWE beforehand. He came back after several years, and he was being anointed to be the one to challenge for the World Championship. Well, people didn't like that. They hated that. They hated the fact that they're the person that they wanted, that they were emotionally and intellectually invested in his story of his fight against the Authority. And to find that get sideways for Batista winning, so that Batista would go into the Royal Rumble. Now, we don't know, like in the terms here, that this was a work or a shoot. Shoot meaning that the reaction was totally real without there being a worked angle, and worked being that everything happens in front of your eyes is staged, it's worked, it's part of the story. I tend to believe that for the Daniel Bryan part, Daniel Bryan that would eventually go into the WrestleMania and face Batista and Randy Orton was the champion, I believe that was a work shoot, where the reaction was a shoot. The fans were not liking it; they were hating it, and they made it known. And so they worked it in for Daniel Bryan to be part of it to appease the fans, because pro wrestling companies will do a lot to subvert expectations, and oftentimes they will dampen or let the air out of the bubble of anyone's expectations of one of their favorites not going ahead or not succeeding, because their own plans does not generally associate with the fans' ideas. And there's wrestling companies like the WWE or AEW are confident enough that no matter how pissed off you are as a fan, you're still going to watch. You're still going to be a tick, which will be your money or your attention will eventually garner revenue. So, yeah. But when something turns this badly and they have to do something in order to appease, in the long run, they'll look at the long run big picture of this. Now, in terms of the Cody Rhodes, The Rock, Roman Reigns thing, I believe on the outset, on the visual, just a bare surface of this, that I think this is definitely a miscalculation. That they probably thought the star power of The Rock, Dwayne Johnson, one of the biggest Hollywood stars now, one of the ones who probably has the largest paychecks of movies now, is Dwayne. Now being a member of the board of the TKO board that represents the WWE and other companies, which under the umbrella of Endeavor. Him coming back, his star power would be enough that people will forget about the Cody Rhodes thing. Machinations were already happening, because when that Friday SmackDown happened and The Rock showed up to confront Roman, they were already moving players around so that during a live event afterwards, Cody Rhodes got attacked by another wrestler, Shinsuke Nakamura, which would continue their feud, which would play out on TV and at live events, and perhaps even in the next pay-per-view before the WrestleMania, which is Elimination Chamber. So they're trying to move Cody out of the way so you don't have to worry about Cody while he's doing something else, that he's distracted by this other angle, while you settle in on the idea of The Rock versus Roman Reigns, which is something that the fans do not want. They didn't want it to the tune of over 500,000 people on the video of that confrontation. And it got to the point where the customer service of the Rock merchandise for WWE was getting messages of, I bought all this Cody Rhodes stuff. I'm not going to be buying this. I was buying Cody Rhodes stuff. And I don't want to get a refund because of this. And none of them. And it seems to be just, that was like kind of an unnecessary thing to go after, like the merchandise site of it. But there you go. Now, with the motion of them trying to move Cody Rhodes against Seth Rollins, again, as a distraction to like a consolation prize, people are pissed off that, if Rock was going to face Roman Reigns, then why would you have Cody Rhodes win the Royal Rumble? Why was that in the script? Because why not have The Rock just show up as a surprise 30th entry, defeat everybody, and then he faces Roman Reigns? Then that would be kind of kosher. I think they got blindsided at the idea that people would react this way. And either they're going to try to fix it in one way or another, or they're going to let it ride as it is and let the chips fall where they may. The reason why I was meaning to do this video on this subject, because I was watching the past few days, and the reaction growing and growing and growing and growing for Cody Rhodes in this. And then I started thinking about it. I started thinking about the long game. WrestleMania is going to be in April, so it's a while away. This happened Royal Rumble, and then in this past few days. Okay? There is openings and there is possibilities of them trying to fix this or make this all into a story arc of itself. That all of this is not like a miscalculated shoot, but it's all a work. All work to piss people off enough, to get passionate enough, especially to be passionate enough for Cody Rhodes, and then twist it around so that Cody does get to finish his story at WrestleMania, or sometime before then. So I was thinking about it. I was thinking about the possibilities and the imaginations of what they could do with this. One of the interesting indicators of this is that people were passing out "We Want Cody" signs. There was a hashtag "We Want Cody" when this all came down this past Friday. They were handing out signs to the crowd during Raw. Now, I don't know if it means them, meaning the WWE officials, or someone decided to generate these signs and then pass them out among the fans. But they were indicators. So the signs for "We Want Cody" are not only in the crowd, but they're visible in the crowd, meaning the cameras were pointing to them. And when Cody Rhodes and Seth Rollins tonight were having their interactions, the crowd started chanting "Rocky sucks," to which Seth Rollins acknowledged and responded to, and the commentators responded to. This is a little inside important point here, because if they didn't want this drama, or they didn't calculate this drama, they would not acknowledge it at all. I used the reference of CM Punk. When CM Punk left the WWE, and went away because of the circumstances of how he left, crowds for over a year, 2 years, or more for all the years that Punk's been away were chanting CM Punk, especially towards Triple H and Stephanie McMahon and what was considered the Authority. People were chanting that constantly, especially in Chicago. And since they didn't want the drama, 99.9% of the time, not the commentators, not the principal people like the Authority, responded to it. It only got to the point where people looked visibly frustrated, where they actually responded to it like snarkily or whatever. But they never, they never tried to make it. They just ignored it. Well, they didn't ignore this. So that leads me to believe that there is a machination work going on about this. And I was trying to think about, like, so being like, my armchair booker as I book an online promotion off of Facebook. And I thought, all right, during the confrontation between The Rock and Roman Reigns, where he just came out, hugged Cody, whispered something in his ear, Cody left, disjointed and sad and so forth, and he just sort of walked away. The Rock never said anything to Roman Reigns. And the Roman Reigns came up, pulled up the title, and just looked at The Rock, and they looked at back and forth, and that was it. That was it. That means The Rock never said what he was there for. The only time The Rock ever mentioned Roman Reigns was when he came back a week prior to the Royal Rumble, and then he made that offhand comment about being the head of the table. Meaning the head of the Samoan dynasty, the family Roman Reigns is supposedly the head of. So, speculate with me for a moment, my dear wrestling fans. Let's say this coming Friday, or maybe the next Friday, depending upon people's schedules. The Rock shows up, Roman Reigns shows up, Roman Reigns gets in his face, jaws at him about him being a movie star, that he doesn't have it anymore, that he can't be the head of the table, or he's even too old, or any of this and that stuff, and he says he's never going to get the world's championship, that and so forth, and The Rock goes, whoa. Whoever said I wanted the world's championship? And he goes and gives that a nice little smile about it, and there's a little confusion. Oh, I'll face you at WrestleMania. I pulled the strings to make sure I face you at WrestleMania. But it's not going to be for the title. You see, the title's spoken for. Cody Rhodes' music hits. Cody Rhodes comes out. And Rock explains that, no, I'm not going to challenge you for the World's Championship, because Cody Rhodes is going to challenge you for the World Championship at Elimination Chamber, which is the pay-per-view that's coming up next, the next one before WrestleMania. And when Roman Reigns, objects to it, saying that he's not going to do it, Rock then drops the shoot knowledge of him being on the board of TKO, and says, no, you will, because he has a stroke now to compel it to that he can't possibly object, or he'll strip him of the title right now. I don't know how much of that could be actually moved into it, but where Roman Reigns is now forced to go to Elimination Chamber, which will be down under. I think it was it's going to be in Australia. Now, reason why this will happen, because Roman Reigns wasn't officially going to go to the Elimination Chamber at all, in any capacity. Problem. But the problem that happens, unfortunately, that may have to compel him to do so, not in storyline meaning him defending the championship against Cody Rhodes, is unfortunately Seth Rollins himself is injured. CM Punk is injured. Two of your major headliners, main event people that draws the money for people to go to an arena, will not be there. It's not too often that WWE goes down to Australia to have a major pay-per-view event. They want to have their top guns of their headliners to be there to give them the show. Who do you have left? You have Cody Rhodes and you have Roman Reigns. So, in my hypothesis of how this could be all work, or it should work, Roman Reigns has no choice but to face Cody Rhodes, and there might be some stipulations involved that will prevent his family from getting involved, because half the time that Roman Reigns actually wins his matches to maintain his championship is because he has like his cousin Jimmy Uso or his other cousin Solo Sikoa appear out of nowhere, do a super kick, or do something that screws up the match, and then the person doesn't win, and Roman wins. Well, a stipulation can be made that they're gone. They can't get involved. So it's just man on man, Cody versus Roman. And if Cody wins, and he finishes his story, avenges his father, then he takes his world championship he won to WrestleMania, where he faces Seth Rollins, title versus title unification. What would be a bigger match than that? Not only a bigger match for WrestleMania, but a bigger match for a WrestleMania 40. The 40th year of WrestleMania is happening. Speculate with me. Alright. This was kind of a fun video I wanted to do for my pro wrestling watching habit. I had just done some more recordings on my my video game wrestling gig that I also do on here, called In This Very Ring. I'm probably going to use the actual In This Very Ring logo that I have for the thumbnail for this video, just to prove that this is a little different than my political stuff. I'm sure in the next few days I will get into some more of the political material, given that the bipartisan border deal is now out and is public. The Supreme Court is going to go and have their listening. They're going to listen to the case of the 14th Amendment with Trump in Colorado. So there will be stuff that I will talk about. But until then, pro wrestling fans, everyone else in between, the ranter rants because the urge to rant is always rising. And this time, it was rising over some silly pro wrestling stuff.